The security camera footage shows Margaret Chen walking through the lobby of Meridian Financial at 11:47 p.m. on October 15, 2023. She carries a small black bag and moves with purpose toward the elevator bank. What the cameras don't capture is the USB drive in her pocket containing 847,000 client records worth $53 million on the black market. For 3 years, Margaret had been the invisible employee. She arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, ate lunch, alone at her desk, and left precisely at 5:30 p.m. Her colleagues barely knew her name. The accounting department's background noise included her quiet keystrokes and the occasional rustle of papers. No one suspected that this unremarkable woman had been systematically dismantling one of Seattle's most trusted investment firms from the inside. The discovery would shake the financial district to its core. Clients who had entrusted their life savings to Meridian would learn that their most sensitive information had been sold to international crime syndicates. Retirement funds vanished overnight. Identities were stolen across 12 countries. The scandal would destroy careers, shatter families, and expose a web of corruption that reached the highest levels of corporate America. But on that Tuesday night in October, as Margaret swiped her badge for the final time, none of this had yet come to light. She was simply a quiet colleague, unremarkable and forgotten, about to disappear into the darkness with the largest data theft in Pacific Northwest history. Meridian Financial occupied floors 15 through 23 of the Columbia Tower in downtown Seattle. The firm managed investment portfolios for over 12,000 clients, ranging from middle-class families to tech billionaires. Founded in 1987 by Robert Meridian, the company had built its reputation on discretion, security, and consistent returns. Margaret Chen joined Meridian in September 2020 as a junior data analyst. At 34, she possessed a master's degree in computer science from the University of Washington and 5 years of experience at smaller financial firms. Her hiring manager, David Knowles, noted her technical skills and quiet demeanor. She seemed perfect for the methodical work of organizing client databases and generating compliance reports. Margaret's cubicle sat in the northwest corner of the 16th floor, surrounded by the accounting department's 42 employees. Her workspace remained spotless. A single photo of her parents sat beside her monitor. She brought lunch from home daily and declined invitations to office gatherings. Colleagues described her as polite but distant, competent yet unremarkable. The firm's security protocols reflected industry standards for 2020. Employee access cards tracked entry and exit times. Network activity was monitored for unusual data transfers. Financial records required dual authorization for access. However, the system relied heavily on trust among long-term employees and contained vulnerabilities that would prove catastrophic. Margaret's criminal activity began 6 months after her hire date. Her first breach occurred on March 12, 2021, when she accessed client files beyond her authorization level. The system logged the activity but generated no alerts. Her supervisor's credentials obtained through careful observation of password entries granted her expanded database access. Over 18 months, Margaret developed a sophisticated extraction method. She copied small amounts of data during legitimate work sessions, embedding stolen information within routine reports. Her technical background allowed her to modify file timestamps and access logs, creating the appearance of normal database queries. Each theft remained below the threshold that would trigger security protocols. The data Margaret collected included social security numbers, bank account details, investment histories, and personal contact information. She organized this information into encrypted files stored on external drives hidden in her apartment. Her apartment on Capitol Hill became a staging ground for the largest THI financial crime in the firm's history. Margaret established contact with data brokers through encrypted messaging platforms in August 2022. Her first sale involved 300 client records to a European identity theft ring. The transaction netted her $47,000, deposited into cryptocurrency accounts she managed from her home computer. The success of this initial sale convinced her to expand operations by October 2023. Margaret had sold portions of Meridian's client database to criminal organizations across 4 continents. She maintained detailed records of her transactions, tracking which information had been sold to prevent duplicate sales that might raise suspicion. Her criminal enterprise generated over $2 million in revenue while remaining completely undetected by Meridian's security systems. The night of October 15th marked Margaret's planned exit from the scheme. She intended to steal the firm's complete client database, sell it to the highest bidder, and disappear before anyone discovered the theft. Her access card recorded her final entry into the building at 11:47 p.m. Security cameras captured her movement through the lobby, but the elevator cameras malfunctioned that evening. Creating a gap in the visual record, Margaret reached her cubicle at midnight and began the final phase of her operation. She inserted a high-capacity storage device into her workstation and initiated a comprehensive database download. The process required 4 hours to complete, during which time she remained alone on the 16th floor. Her stolen supervisor credentials provided unrestricted access to every client file in Meridian's system. At 4:23 a.m., Margaret completed the download and prepared to leave the building. The storage device contained complete financial profiles for all 12,000 Meridian clients, representing the most valuable data theft of her criminal career. She estimated the information's black market value at $53 million, enough to fund a comfortable retirement in a country without extradition treaties.
Detective Sarah Morrison of the Seattle Police Department's Financial Crimes Unit received the case on November 3, 2023. Meridian's CEO, Robert Meridian, had discovered the theft during a routine security audit. The firm's IT department identified unusual network activity originating from Margaret's workstation, but she had already disappeared. Her apartment stood empty, lease terminated, forwarding address non-existent. Morrison's investigation began with Margaret's employment records. The background check Meridian conducted before hiring revealed no criminal history or suspicious activity. Margaret's previous employers provided positive references, describing her as reliable and technically skilled. Her university records showed academic excellence and no disciplinary issues. On paper, Margaret Chun appeared to be an ideal employee. Detectives' examination of Margaret's workspace yielded crucial evidence. A forensic analysis of her computer revealed deleted files containing encrypted client data. IT specialists recovered fragments of her criminal correspondence, including partial cryptocurrency wallet addresses and contact information for data brokers. The evidence confirmed that Margaret had been stealing information for over 2 years. Morrison traced Margaret's financial activities through banking records and cryptocurrency exchanges. The investigation revealed a pattern of large deposits coinciding with major data breaches at other financial institutions. Margaret had been operating as a professional data thief, targeting multiple firms across the Pacific Northwest. Meridian represented her largest and most sophisticated operation. The detectives' breakthrough came through Margaret's apartment complex security footage. Cameras captured her loading boxes into a rental truck on October 20th, 5 days after the final theft. The rental company's records provided a license plate number and GPS tracking data. The truck had traveled to Vancouver, British Columbia, suggesting Margaret had fled to Canada. Morrison coordinated with Canadian authorities to trace Margaret's movements across the border. Immigration records showed Margaret entering Canada on October 21st using her legitimate passport. However, she failed to register with immigration authorities as required for extended stays. Her trail went cold in Vancouver's crowded downtown district, The investigation expanded to include Margaret's family connections. Her parents, recent immigrants from Taiwan, resided in San Francisco and had not heard from their daughter since September. Her university classmates reported minimal contact since graduation. Margaret had deliberately isolated herself from personal relationships that might compromise her. Criminal Activities' digital forensics teams analyzed Margaret's personal computer equipment left behind in her apartment. They discovered sophisticated encryption software and evidence of communication with international criminal networks. Margaret had been planning her escape for months, researching countries without extradition treaties and methods for laundering cryptocurrency proceeds. Morrison's team identified 17 separate instances where Margaret had sold Meridian client data to criminal organizations. The stolen information had been used for identity theft, bank fraud, and investment scams across 12 countries. The financial damage to affected clients exceeded $8 million, with additional losses continuing to mount as criminals exploited the stolen data. The investigation revealed Margaret's connection to a larger network of financial criminals operating throughout North America. Her data theft activities were part of a coordinated effort to compromise major investment firms and sell client information to international crime syndicates. Margaret served as a key operative in this network, using her technical skills and insider access to facilitate massive data thefts. Detective Morrison's investigation took an unexpected turn on December 8, 2023, when forensic accountants discovered irregularities in Meridian Financial's internal audit trail. The analysis revealed that Margaret's data theft had been facilitated by someone with administrative access to the firm's security systems. Her stolen supervisor credentials alone could not have provided the level of access required for her comprehensive database extraction. The discovery led Morrison to examine the activities of David Knowles, Margaret's hiring manager and the head of Meridian's IT security department. Knowles had worked for the firm for 12 years and held a trusted position overseeing network security protocols. His access privileges allowed him to modify security settings and disable monitoring systems without triggering alerts. Financial records revealed that Knowles had been receiving regular payments from an offshore account linked to Margaret's cryptocurrency network. The payments began 3 months after Margaret's hire date and continued until her disappearance. The total amount exceeded $400,000, suggesting a profit-sharing arrangement between the two conspirators. Morrison's team discovered that Knowles had systematically disabled security protocols that would have detected Margaret's unauthorized data access. He modified audit logs to hide her activities and created false network traffic reports to mask the scope of her data theft. His position as security administrator allowed him to operate without oversight from other IT staff. The investigation revealed that Knowles had recruited Margaret specifically for her technical skills and lack of social connections within the firm. Her hiring had not been based on merit alone, but was part of a calculated plan to place an inside operative within Meridian's data systems. Knowles had identified her during her previous employment at a smaller financial firm where he served as a consulting security expert. Further analysis of Knowles' communications uncovered his connections to international data brokers and criminal organizations. He had been operating as a facilitator for corporate espionage activities across multiple financial institutions. Margaret represented one of several assets he had placed within target companies to steal sensitive information. The plot thickened when investigators discovered that Robert Meridian, the firm's founder and CEO, had been aware of suspicious network activity months before the theft was officially discovered. Internal emails revealed that he had instructed Knowles to investigate unusual data access patterns, but had taken no action when Knowles reported finding nothing suspicious. Morrison realized that Meridian's delayed reporting of the theft had allowed Margaret and her accomplices additional time to exploit the stolen information. The CEO's decision to handle the investigation internally rather than immediately contacting law enforcement had enabled the criminals to cover their tracks and flee the country. The investigation uncovered evidence that Knowles had been planning to frame Margaret as a lone wolf operative while concealing his own involvement in the scheme. He had prepared false documents suggesting that Margaret had bypassed security systems through sophisticated hacking techniques rather than insider assistance. His plan fell apart when forensic analysis revealed the administrative-level modifications to security protocols. The discovery of Knowles' involvement transformed the case from a simple data theft to a complex conspiracy involving multiple perpetrators and extensive planning. The revelation that a trusted security administrator had betrayed his employer and facilitated one of the largest financial crimes in Seattle's history shocked the business community and raised questions about insider threat detection at major corporations. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Washington filed federal charges against Margaret Chun and David Knowles. On January 15, 2024, Margaret faced 23 counts of wire fraud, computer fraud, and identity theft, carrying a potential sentence of 230 years in federal prison. Knowles was charged with conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Facing up to 50 years imprisonment, Margaret remained a fugitive, believed to be hiding in a country without extradition treaties with the United States. The FBI issued an international arrest warrant and added her to the Cyber Most Wanted list. Interpol coordinated with law enforcement agencies across 47 countries to locate and apprehend her. The search focused on Southeast Asian nations where she could blend into expatriate communities. Knowles was arrested at his Bellevue home on January 16, 2024. Federal agents executed a search warrant and seized computer equipment, financial records, and encrypted communication devices. His attempt to destroy evidence during the arrest resulted in additional obstruction charges. He was held without bail pending trial due to flight risk concerns. The prosecution's case against Knowles relied heavily on digital evidence and financial records linking him to Margaret's criminal activities. Federal prosecutors presented testimony from cybersecurity experts who explained how Knowles had systematically disabled security protocols to facilitate the data theft. His administrative access logs provided a clear timeline of his criminal activities. Knowles initially maintained his innocence, claiming that Margaret had compromised his administrative credentials without his knowledge. However, the prosecution presented evidence of their pre-existing relationship and the offshore payments he had received. His defense strategy collapsed when investigators discovered encrypted communications detailing his coordination with international crime syndicates. On March 22, 2024, facing overwhelming evidence and the prospect of a lengthy trial, Knowles accepted a plea agreement. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy and computer fraud charges in exchange for a reduced sentence of 12 years in federal prison. The plea deal required him to cooperate with ongoing efforts to locate Margaret and recover stolen client funds, provided detailed information about Margaret's escape route and connections to international criminal networks. His cooperation led to the identification of data brokers who had purchased Meridian client information and the recovery of $2 million in cryptocurrency proceeds. However, the majority of the stolen funds remained hidden in untraceable digital wallets. The federal court imposed restitution requirements totaling $15 million, representing the estimated financial damage to Meridian clients and the firm itself. Knowles' assets, including his home and retirement accounts, were seized to partially satisfy the restitution order. The remaining balance would follow him for the rest of his life. Civil lawsuits filed by affected Meridian clients sought additional damages from both the firm and its insurance carriers. The class action litigation alleged that Meridian's inadequate security protocols and delayed disclosure had exacerbated the financial harm to clients. Settlement negotiations began while criminal proceedings continued. Robert Meridian faced scrutiny from federal regulators and civil lawsuits alleging negligent supervision of his firm's security systems. While not criminally charged, he was forced to resign as CEO and pay substantial fines to securities regulators. The scandal destroyed his reputation and ended his career in financial services. The Meridian financial scandal exposed fundamental vulnerabilities in corporate security systems and the devastating consequences of insider threats. Margaret Chan's theft of client data affected 12,000 families and individuals, causing financial losses that continued to mount months after the initial discovery. The case demonstrated how a single trusted employee could compromise an entire organization's security infrastructure. David Knowles began serving his 12-year federal sentence at a minimum security prison in Oregon. His cooperation with law enforcement led to the dismantling of an international network of data thieves and the recovery of millions in stolen funds. However, the majority of the cryptocurrency proceeds from the scheme remained hidden, likely providing Margaret with the resources to maintain her fugitive status indefinitely. Margaret Chun remains at large as of this recording. Despite international law enforcement efforts and a $1 million reward offered by the FBI, she has successfully evaded capture for over 8 months. Intelligence reports suggest she may be living in a non-extradition country under an assumed identity, protected by the millions she stole from Meridian's clients. The scandal forced changes throughout the financial services industry. Firms implemented ENHA insider threat detection systems, mandatory dual authorization for sensitive data access, and improved employee background screening procedures. Regulatory agencies increased oversight of data security protocols and imposed stricter penalties for firms that failed to protect client information. Meridian Financial never recovered from the scandal. The firm lost 70% of its clients within 6 months of the theft's disclosure and declared bankruptcy in August 2024. The company's assets were liquidated to provide partial compensation to affected clients, though most victims recovered less than 30 cents on each dollar lost. The case raises troubling questions about trust and security in the digital age. How many other quiet colleagues are systematically stealing sensitive information from their employers? What safeguards can organizations implement to detect insider threats before catastrophic damage occurs? And in an interconnected world where criminals can disappear across international borders with millions in stolen cryptocurrency, how can law enforcement agencies adapt to pursue justice? Margaret Chan's story serves as a stark reminder that the greatest threats often come from within. Her 3 years of patient planning and systematic theft demonstrate that criminals are evolving faster than the security systems designed to stop them. Until she is captured and brought to justice, she remains a symbol of how a single individual can exploit trust and technology to devastating effect. The search for Margaret Chung continues, but her legacy of financial destruction will impact victims for years to come. In the world of cybercrime, the quiet colleague may be the most dangerous adversary of all.